Hey, what's going on, guys? So, Palworld version 1.0 just got a huge new announcement. And this one matters because it is the full release, the point where the game finally leaves early access and becomes a proper launch title on July 10th, 2026. Pocket Pair is calling it a massive milestone, and from everything they have said so far, this is not just a tiny cleanup patch or a quick balance pass. They are treating it like the moment Palworld really steps into its final form. And right away, I think that is the main thing people need to understand. There is not a full patch note list yet. There is no giant, neatly organized changelog sitting there for everybody to comb through line by line. What we have instead is Pocket Pair giving a very deliberate preview of the kind of changes coming with the full release. They have confirmed that the game is getting more pals, unexplored areas, and new story pieces that go deeper into the world itself. They even teased that the big tree that players have been staring at for so long is going to matter more than people probably expected. That alone already gives the whole thing a different feel. Because for a while now, Palworld has been one of those games where every update added something, but there was always that feeling of, alright, this is still building towards something bigger. It launched in early access back in January 2024, and since then it has grown a lot, picked up new platforms, and kept layering on more content. Now the developers are finally saying that the big version launch is coming, which tells me they are clearly trying to tie all the loose pieces together instead of just tossing in random extras forever. What makes this announcement interesting is that Pocket Pair has also been pretty open about the fact that the full release is meant to change a lot from the ground up. Their publishing lead, John Bucky Buckley, said players will not be forced to wipe their saves, so your existing character can carry over if you wanted to. But at the same time, he also said they are softly recommending a fresh start because so much is changing from beginning to end that a new save would give the best experience. That is a pretty strong signal that this is not just some cosmetic refresh. This sounds like a broad rework of progression, pacing, and how the whole game feels from the opening hours all the way through the endgame. And that is where the hype really starts to make sense. Buckley said people will be shocked by what they have achieved for the full release, and he also said they are trying to expand everything, not just the end game. That means early game, middle game, late game, all of it. So when players ask what is actually new, the safest answer right now is a lot, but not all of it has been broken down publicly yet. We know the broad themes: more content, more world building, more pals, more places to explore, more narrative. More work across the whole experience, but the exact patch notes are still under wraps. The teaser video also gave people a small look at some of the new creatures on the way, and that part is classic Palworld. Pocket Pair showed off a few new designs, including a creature that looks like a red water lily, a little dog with a fluffy mane, and a bird with a furry head lining. Then the teaser ends with a massive flying whale moving toward a glowing tree, which is just such a wild visual that it instantly made people assume the tree is going to be central to the story or world structure in some way. Pocket Pair did not spell that all out in plain language, but the implication is pretty hard to miss. So if you are asking, is there a patch note and what is new? The answer is kind of two different answers at the same time. No, there is not a complete patch note document yet. Yes, there is plenty of official information about the direction of the full release. It is going to be a larger, more polished, more story-driven version of the game with new pals, new territories, and a deeper look at the mystery of the world. That is the confirmed stuff. Anything beyond that is still speculation until Pocket Pair starts laying out the exact systems, content drops, and balance changes in detail. And there is another angle here that matters too. The timing of this launch is very deliberate. Palworld is leaving early access after spending more than 2 years in development and public testing. That gives the team a long runway to keep polishing things instead of rushing the finish line. It also means all the weird little edges players have complained about, like progression pacing, older systems, and the feeling that certain parts of the game were waiting for a bigger overhaul, are probably exactly the sort of things Pocket Pair wants to tackle before launch. That is at least the vibe from the way they are talking about it. Now, if you have been playing for a while, the big practical question is probably whether you should keep your current world or start over when the full release arrives. Pocket Pair's answer is basically you can keep your save, but a fresh start is probably the better experience. And that sounds fair. When a game changes this much from the beginning to the end, you often get the best sense of the new pacing by starting clean and letting the new systems unfold the way they were meant to. Still, the important part is that they are not forcing anyone to lose progress, which is a pretty player-friendly move. There is also a bit of context around how Palworld has been evolving up to now. Since early access, it has kept expanding across platforms and staying in the conversation through steady updates and new content. That matters because this full release is not happening in a vacuum. Players already know the game has had a long stretch of iteration, and now the studio is turning that into a proper launch moment instead of just letting early access drag on forever. A lot of games never make it out of that stage, so just getting to a real release is a big deal on its own. One thing I keep coming back to is how different the overall tone feels compared to many previous announcements. Usually, when developers talk about upcoming updates, the focus is on a couple of features or a handful of additions. Here, the conversation keeps returning to the idea that the entire experience is being expanded. That creates a different level of curiosity because players are not just wondering about one new mechanic or one new area. They are wondering how the game itself is going to feel once all these changes are connected together. That is a much bigger question, and it is probably why so many people are watching closely for the full patch notes. What I like about this announcement is that Pocket Pair is not pretending this is some tiny tune-up. They are selling it like the turning point it is. They are not flooding people with exact numbers, tiny menu changes, or a laundry list of balance tweaks yet. Instead, they are saying, look, this is the big one, and we are building it to touch every part of the game. That is why people are paying attention. It is not just that Palworld is getting more content. It is that the entire structure around the game is about to be reworked and wrapped into a proper release. So the real takeaway is pretty simple. The full release is confirmed, the date is set, the broad themes are known, and the patch notes are still not public yet. For now, the confirmed new stuff is more pals, new areas, and bigger story reveals tied to the mystery of the world and that giant tree. The confirmed player note is that you can keep your save, but starting fresh is recommended if you want the whole experience to land the way the developers intend. Everything else is still waiting for Pocket Pair to show its hand, and that is exactly why this announcement feels so important. It is not just about one more content drop. It is about Palworld finally becoming the game Pocket Pair has been building toward since the early access launch. The full release is where all of this is supposed to come together, and based on the way they're talking, they want that moment to feel like a real shift, not just another routine update.